Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we're going to be breaking down this week's stop on the PGA Tour, the 2025 Texas Children's Houston Open at Memorial Park Golf Course. I'm actually pretty excited for this one. I think that this is a unique golf course in what it brings to the PGA Tour. It's got some very unique characteristics, and the field itself this week is pretty darn good. And we're going to break it all down here in this video. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about Memorial Park and take a look at the board and take a look at the stats, see if we can identify some guys that are going to play well here. And we're going to do it all like dominoes in the mid-2000s. In 30 minutes or less, guaranteed. Now, if you have not been here with us, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that we can be with us for the rest of the PGA Tour season, as well as all of our college basketball content that's coming your way. You know, we're in the middle of the NCAA tournament right now, so we've got a ton of stuff happening with that. And if you're subscribed, you will know when all that drops. And then, you know, we're rolling into spring. And so it's going to be, you know, golf major season. It's going to be, you know, best ball draft season. And, you know, before you know it, it's going to be fantasy football, college football season, as well as covering golf every week. So make sure you're subscribed that we can be with us for all of that. But we're going to tell you everything you need to know here this week. First things first. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's go ahead and get started talking about Memorial Park. All right, so Memorial Park is the host course of this event. It is only hosted the course in every edition after 2020 of this event. And this event actually used to take place during the fall swing. Now it takes place in the spring. They actually replaced the match play event with this one, which, you know, the match play event, like, you know, doing match play as a format, like, but I really did enjoy Austin Country Club. So I was kind of sad to see that, you know, get taken off of the rotation. But this one taking place in the spring is actually a really good replacement. This is a really good golf course, really unique test for PGA Tour pros. So believe it or not, Memorial Park is a totally public golf course in Houston. It only costs about $50 to play. So if you're in the Houston area, you might want to try this one out. It is a par 70, 7,500 yards from what they're going to be playing this week on the PGA Tour. That is quite long, especially when you consider that it has 5 par 3s and 3 par 5s. In terms of like yardage per par or yardage per stroke on the scorecard, it's one of the longest tests on the PGA Tour. You just simply don't see par 70s that are 7,500 yards very often. You know, the one annual example is East Lake is pretty close to that, but you do see courses in majors that are close to that, like Southern Hills and Pinehurst number 2. Now, this course has actually been renovated by Tom Doak, and Brooks Koepka had input on this renovation, which I thought was interesting. Basically, when Tom Doak came in and renovated it, he used a lot of, you know, kind of Tom Doak principles that you would see at another golf course like Congaree or the Renaissance Club or a lot of courses at Bandon Dunes, where you see not a whole lot of water hazards, not a whole lot of hazards in general, but let the topography of the land be the test. And so really there's not a whole lot of mess out here on this course, but there is still ways to find big numbers. First off, the course is super long. So if you don't bring it this week, you're going to be finding yourselves just in a mess, right? And it's going to play fairly difficult this week. This is not a birdie fest by any stretch of the imagination. The fairways here at this course are quite narrow, but there is very little hazard for missing the tee. There's not a whole lot of water hazards. There are trees, but it's not tree lined like a Harbor Town or a Sedgefield. And the rough is not very penal at all. One of the big consequences of this tournament being moved from the fall to the spring is now we have this overseeded rough because the Bermuda has not grown in yet. It makes it a whole lot easier to play out of than thick Bermuda rough, and it's not actually mowed out that far. So as long as you are within the driving corridor, you're going to be okay off the tee. You don't have to really worry about the rough. You just can't be super wayward and hit it into the trees or the bunkers. Now, what that does with it being a long course is guys, and there being no penalty for, you know, wayward tee shots, really, guys are going to whale away with driver every opportunity that they get, because even if they're hitting their driver well, with this being a long course, you're going to have a ton of long irons into greens, and the greens themselves are quite large, quite a lot of undulation, and they have a ton of short grass runoff areas. So if you miss the green and it rolls off, it's going to roll off a little bit of ways, because what you have is kind of these elevated without rough. There's nothing to stop the ball if it runs off. So it's going to run off into short grass. And so a unique skill this week that you only see at courses like Augusta National, like Quail Hollow, like Riviera, like here, the Renaissance Club and the Scottish Open is another example, is you're going to see a lot of scrambling, a lot of chip shots, a lot of pitch shots coming from short grass, fairway type grass, as opposed to thick rough. And that is a unique skill. That is one thing when Tom Doak renovated this course, along with input from Brooks Koepka, they really wanted to Augustify this place and make it more similar to Augusta National, which is why you see a lot of guys, particularly this year, playing it as kind of their last test before heading on over into Georgia for the Masters. So really, with all that being said, right, we got a long course with long iron approach shots, with greens that are tough to hit, but big with difficult short game shots. To me, there are 3 traits that you want to have this week. And if a guy checks off all 3 boxes, then they're a guy that you really want to play. If they check off 2 of the boxes or 1 of the boxes, then maybe I could talk myself into them. But the 3 traits that we want to have is we want to have guys that are good with their driver, either be long or accurate, preferably long. But, if you're accurate, that's still going to help you out a little bit because you do have to keep it within the windows here. Trait number 2 is to be good with your long irons. If you cannot hack it with your long irons, then this is not going to be a good place for you. And then 3, we want you to be good around the green, particularly in courses that have short grass runoff areas, because you just got to be able to get up and down here. You're going to miss greens. You're going to have opportunities for bogeys. And so you do not want to give up those opportunities. Lastly, we are heading to Texas, or the Texas swing, for a few events. So one thing you're going to see this week, one thing I'm going to advise this week is be on the lookout for weather. Last week at the Valspar, after we recorded, there looked to be a significant weather advantage between the early late and the late early golfers on Thursday and Friday. And I built all of my DFS lineups around that weather advantage, played very few from what was considered the bad wave. And it actually really worked, not just because there ended up being a huge advantage, but because I narrowed down my player pool so narrowly. And a lot of the guys that I picked from the good wave did happen to be good plays. And the guys that I picked from the bad wave were good plays anyway, no matter the fact that they had the bad wave. Now, I didn't have Victor Hovland the winner, but I had a lot of good lineups because I played the weather wave. So if you're playing DFS this week, be on the lookout for those tee times, be on the lookout for the weather, because in the state of Texas in the afternoon, you can really have winds pick up, and you do not want to be out there if you're going to be on there with a super windy day, where the other wave on Thursday and Friday does not have a wave like that. So let's go ahead and take a look at our key stats this week. So more so than anything this week, I'm going to be looking at off the tee and scrambling or around the green play. In addition to approach, obviously strokes gained approach is the most important thing week in and week out. It's why it's a key stat literally every single week. But this week, we are going to be looking at off the tee. We are going to be looking at scrambling, because you got to have those 3 traits: good with driver, good with long irons, good around the green play. And so all the stats we're looking at are going to measure your basic strokes gained off the tee, your basic strokes gained approach, scrambling, greens in regulation gained, which is an approach stat, and then bogey avoidance, which is another around the green stat. So in terms of comp courses this week, this is kind of a mess of a course to comp because it really is such a unique test, right? So to me, the most direct comp is Southern Hills, which is in Oklahoma, hosted the 2022 PGA Championship. Features a lot of similarities in terms of the yardage on the scorecard, features a lot of similarities in terms of the driving corridors, features a lot of similarities in terms of the short grass around the greens. I think it's a great comp, and if somebody played well there, then it stands to reason they're going to play well here. I think general Texas courses are a pretty decent comp. You see a lot of the same characters play well at all of the Texas courses. Tony Finau, Scotty Scheffler immediately come to mind, so I think that that's the way you can look at it. And then after that, it's just a laundry list of courses that fit some of the characteristics here, right? Like, I think obviously Augusta National is a good one. Driver heavy, short grass runoff areas for the short game. A lot of long irons into greens. That's kind of Augusta National, right? Torrey Pines is another one. Some of these other courses I think are more so where we've seen guys have had success here, have success also at. So Torrey Pines, when that comes to mind, you think of Tony Finau, you think of Steven Yeager. TBC Scottsdale, you think of Scotty Scheffler, you think of Thomas Dietrich, also Tony Finau. Vedanta Vallarta, you've got Tony Finau and Akshay Bhatia. Detroit Golf Club, Tony Finau and Akshay Bhatia. And then you also have the Tom Doak designed, very similar Congaree, which is a course that Rory McIlroy won at. And then Pinehurst number 2 last year, home of the U.S. Open, obviously another course that Rory McIlroy almost won at. That's the laundry list of comp courses here this week. And that, now we're not going to use kind of that as a huge base this week. There's going to be a lot of other stuff that we're going to look at, but that's just kind of all the different courses that you can kind of intermediately or greatly comp this one to. So let's go ahead, and we are going to now dive down the rabbit hole. All right, so if you have been with us for a while, you know that when I say dive down the rabbit hole, I'm not referring to an actual rabbit hole. I'm referring to the rabbit hole, which is a tool from BetSperts Golf that allows you to use all different kinds of filters and conditions in order to really dive into the data and isolate the micro skills that you want to see golfers be good at in a particular week. And you can use it to make a custom model. And you can just use it to really just isolate whatever skill you want a golfer to have. And it's really helpful. And I've been using it for the past 2 years, and I cannot recommend it enough. Now, here's what we're looking at in the rabbit hole this week. So first, I just wanted to look at basic strokes gained off the tee, who are the generally good drivers of the golf ball. Top 5 in the field: Scheffler, McIlroy, Rico Hoey, Davis Thompson, and Keith Mitchell. Strokes gained on approach, who are the best approach shot hitters in the field. No surprise: Scotty Scheffler, JJ Spawn, Henrik Norlander, Doug Gim, Aaron Rai as your top 5. Who are your best around the green players? You've got Davis Thompson, Bo Hostler, Sung J M, Harry Hall, and CT Pan. If you're curious, Scotty Scheffler ranked number 7. Now, when you look at strokes gained off the tee, I wanted to isolate it to being just long courses that are heavy driver utilization. So courses where everybody's swinging driver, courses where you are going to be looking at guys being encouraged to swing driver, right? Best in the field: Minwoo Lee, Rory McIlroy, Alejandro Tosti, Kurt Kitayama, and Kevin Yu. For strokes gained approach, I wanted to look at strokes gained approach on long golf courses. That's going to really be a good measurement of how good you are with your long irons, because long golf courses tend to leave you with long approach shots. Best in the field: Jonathan Vegas, Gary Woodland, Henrik Norlander, JJ Spawn, and Scotty Scheffler. Then when you look at just generally, no matter how long the course is, proximity of 200 yards plus, how good are you at approach shots from over 200 yards? Best in the field: Jimmy Walker, Kevin Roy, Kurt Kitayama, Vince Cavello, and Sammy Valimaki. Next thing I wanted to look at was just scrambling from short grass. How good are you at getting up the ball up and down when you're scrambling from, non-rough, non-bunker? Best in the field: Paul Waring, Nate Lashley, Will Gordon, Kevin Roy, and Patrick Rogers. I wanted to look at around the green from a few different perspectives. This is around the green on big greens, because that's kind of a different skill, y'all. If you're looking at around the green on big greens, you're really wanting to see like how creatively you can use the green. How can you use that to get the ball close to the hole, right? And so the best in the field in that category: Minwoo Lee, Peter Malnati, Sung J M, Harry Hall, and Aaron Baddeley. Then I wanted to look at around the green on difficult courses, because you're going to see a lot of them here this week. Best in the field: Aaron Baddeley, Scotty Scheffler, Siwoo Kim, Mateo Montecero, and Bo Hostler. Another interesting stat that I found, I wanted to look at approach putting, but I'm not the biggest fan of this stat. I might take this out of the model. So approach putting, I use it on a course that has big greens, because what you can do is you can use it to see, hey, if a guy has a super long putt, are they getting it close, right? But also approach putting is kind of flawed, because if a guy misses a 4-foot putt by 3 inches, they're going to get credit for leaving it 3 inches short, which is why my number 1 golfer in this category, Tony Finau, I think that's what he's been doing. Tony Finau's number 1, followed by Tristan Lawrence, Bronson Burgoon, Jason Day, and Quade Cummins. Then I wanted to look at strokes gained putting on the POA Trivialis Overseen. We failed to mention this earlier, but much like last week at the Valspar, much like the week before at the Players Championship, we have got a POA overseed on these Bermuda greens. So on the rabbit hole, they have a specific filter for that. Who puts well on this surface? The best in the field: Thomas Dietrich, Jake Knapp, Taylor Pendrith, Jacob Bridgman, and Bo Hostler. Now, for whatever reason, par 4 scoring tends to be a very correlated stat with this course. Why? I can't really figure that part out, but guys that play well in general on par 4s tend to play well here. Maybe it's just a coincidence, maybe it's not, but we factored it in this week. Best in the field: Scott best in the field: Scheffler 1, McIlroy 2, Finau 3, M4, English 5. Then I wanted to look at just the state of Texas. Who plays well in Texas? Best in the field: Scheffler, Finau, Woodland, Riley, and Hughes. Then I wanted to look at my primary comp, which is Southern Hills, and I also wanted to include Memorial Park. So when you throw those two in there, who are the best in the field? You've got Finau, McIlroy, Dietrich, Scheffler, and Rye as your top 5. Then I also wanted to factor in recent form. Basically, how well are you hitting the ball in recent weeks? Best in the field in that: Scotty Scheffler, JJ Spawn, Rory McIlroy, Rico Hoey, and Michael Kim as your top 5. And then lastly, I wanted to throw in all the ancillary comps out there, right? So like that big long laundry list that I read you earlier, who were the best in the field at those? You've got Scheffler, McIlroy, Finau, Rye, and M as your top 5. Now, when you throw all of that into a custom model, it should come as no surprise who ended up being my number 1 and my number 2 golfer this week. They're by far the 2 most talented golfers in the field, by far the 2 best golfers in the field. It is Scotty Scheffler and it is Rory McIlroy. And if you think about the 2 skills that you're required at this course: elite driver play, check; long iron play, check; around the green play, check. Both these guys check both boxes. So here it becomes the strategy. If you're playing DFS, they've been priced in such a way with Scotty at 12-7 and Rory at 11-7 that you cannot use both of them in the same lineup. You kind of have to pick. They intentionally price them in that way so that way you cannot play both of them, right? So you got to pick one. And I got to be honest, I think this week I'm going to be leaning Scotty. Rory McIlroy has been the best golfer on the PGA Tour this season. That is a fact. But one of these guys is coming out and prepping for Augusta, and one of these guys is coming out and trying to win the Houston Open. Scotty Scheffler is coming out this week to try to win the Houston Open. He is a Texan. It brings him great pride to be in the state of Texas, and it really hurt him last year when he did not win this event, when he was in the middle of his win streak. He wants to win this, and he hasn't been in his best form this season. He is coming in with the intention of winning and rolling into Augusta National with confidence. Rory McIlroy, in my opinion, after winning the Players, is just here looking to get quality reps. And I would rather have the guy who is here to win than the guy who is here to get reps. That is my personal opinion. My number 3 golfer in the field is Aaron Rai. That is no surprise to me. Aaron Rai might not be super elite, super long off the tee, but he's an incredible approach player, especially on long golf courses, and he is an incredible short game player. And oh, by the way, he happens to have played really well at this golf course. So Aaron Rai, number 3 in my model. Tony Finau, number 4. And in my opinion, that there's a big reason why Tony Finau is an elite course fit, but his recent form leaves a little bit to be desired. I did not factor in recent form a whole lot into my model, that hence why Tony Finau ranks number 4 instead of further out on the list. Siwoo Kim is number 5. You think of another guy that, kind of isn't excellent in all the stats that I outlined, but is pretty good with every stat that I outlined. He's pretty good with the driver. He's pretty good on approach. He's pretty good around the green. Yeah, Siwoo coming in at number 5, no real shocker. Davis Thompson at number 6. I think he is a great play this week. I think that, the weakness of his game is, approach play, but he tends to be better at approach on long golf courses. And he's an elite driver of the golf ball. He's an elite around the green player, ranks first in the field and around the green. So I love Davis Thompson coming in at number 6. I'm going to be high on him this week. Sung J M number 7. Alex Smalley number 8, Kurt Kitayama number 9, and Jonathan Vegas number 10. So Kitayama and Vegas seem to always pop up very high in my models, and I think it's because of just generally how much emphasis I put on ball striking, and those two are really good ball strikers. And you know what? They're both pretty good at long golf courses. So I kind of buy them a little bit this week, and I don't think that they're the worst plays in the 7K range on DraftKings. I don't think I'm betting them outright, but I don't think they're bad plays. All right, y'all, I'm going to do it for the custom model for now, but there's something that, I'm kind of going to edit it and, kind of go back and forth with this all week long. So if you would like to know who reaches the final top 10 of my model, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike's Money Picks. Every single week, I put out my core plays for both DraftKings and FanDuel, as well as the top 10 in my model, as well as a full article why all that took place. So head on over there if you would like to check that out. Also, if you want more information from me, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike's Money Picks. It's where I tweet out all the updates for the show. And also, you can get in the Fantasy Corner Discord. It's entirely free. Link is in the description on YouTube as well as the audio feed. The Fantasy Corner Discord is a great place to go if you're looking for a community to talk DFS with. DFS oriented, but if you're looking to talk DFS, golf is one of the many sports that are covered in the Fantasy Corner Discord, and I cannot recommend it enough if you're looking to build yourself a little community. But all right, y'all, that's going to do it for all the data from the rabbit hole. Let's take a look at the board and let's start strategizing for DFS and betting in one and done. All right, so looking at the board, when you see the DraftKings pricing this week and you see the odds this week, it's very clear who everybody thinks the top 2 most skilled, most likely to win players in the field are. It's Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, right? And look, I got to be honest, I just generally don't believe in betting a golfer outright at like 5-1 odds. So if you're looking to bet Scheffler or McIlroy to win this week, I would highly advise like parlaying it with your favorite college basketball game. And more on those tomorrow on the show if you want to tune into that, or like parlaying it on Duke to make the Final Four or something like that. Like I just generally don't vibe with betting golfers at short odds to win golf tournaments. And so, I think DFS would be a much better format to get access to those 2 guys this week than the outright market. Now, here's what I do think this week. I think we talked about the dilemma already if you're going to play Scheffler, if you're going to play McIlroy. So let's think about it from a DFS perspective for just a second. If you are playing Scheffler or if you're playing McIlroy, everybody else in the field is priced down far enough that you can make them your second golfer in. So what I really think you're going to see this week is pretty much everybody in the 9K range is going to have some ownership, right? And so What I think you're really going to want to do is I think you're really going to want to look to strategically play or strategically fade some of them. And I think if you're not playing Scheffler or McIlroy, you don't want to get two of these guys. You want to try to get like three of these guys above 8,500. So that way you can really separate yourself from being different from the Scheffler or McIlroy lineups as opposed to just being like one guy different, right? So let's talk about that 9K range. Here's who I don't like in the 9K range. JJ Spawn. He's coming in off an all-time high, losing the Players' Championship, not long off the tee. I think this is the time to sell on JJ Spawn. Sung JM can't hit an iron to save his life. Sell. Wyndham Clark. I don't think Wyndham Clark is healthy. He withdrew from the Players. He hasn't played in TGL, and he's been great in TGL. Which you can write that off if you want and you say it's anecdotal or whatever, but he has been really good in that format and he chose not to play it. And I think there's something to the fact that he withdrew from the Players, withdrew from TGL. I would rather see it before I play Wyndham Clark again. So who does that leave in the 9K range? We already mentioned I love Aaron Wright at this course. I love Minwood Lee at this course. I love Davis Thompson at this course. And I love the course fit for Tony Finau. What I think a lot of people are going to do is they're going to write off Finau because of his recent form. So I think Finau might be the one with the least amount of ownership, and he might be the leverage play in this range if you're looking for one. Aaron Wright, I think on paper is the best one. He's played this course 3 times, T7, T7, T19. He's coming in with 3 straight top 14 finishes. It is great with his long irons, is great around the green, just checks a lot of boxes, right? Now, heading down from there, I think Jason Day is really sneaky. He's like sneakily playing good golf. He's sneaky good in the state of Texas. Has played this course 3 times, best finishes at T16. I don't mind it with Jason Day. I think he's actually in a really good spot. In $9,000, I don't think a lot of people are going to be looking to play him. Steven Yeager is the defending champ at 8,800. This is a great course fit for Steven Yeager. Do not discount him. Kim at 8,700 is playing some of the best golf of his life right now. I think he is absolutely playable as well. He's gaining strokes in all the categories that we're looking for. Honestly, y'all, when in doubt, like if you're looking at a golfer's profile page on BetSperts or Data Golf or Rick Rungood or whatever, if they're positive off the tee approach and around the green, they're in play this week. And Michael Kim is one of the few guys who check all 3 of those green boxes. Thomas Dietrich at 8,600. Look, y'all, I think this is a great course fit for Dietrich. He's at his best at long golf courses. He played well at Pinehurst. He played well at Valhalla. He played well here last year. He was T2 in his first appearance at this course last year. And he won another one of the comp courses, which is TPC Scottsdale. So I think that he's in a really good spot at $8,600. I'm going to be buying Thomas Dietrich again this week. I also really like Jacob Bridgman. So we typically wouldn't associate his profile with being great here. He's not a great driver of the golf ball, but he's really good in difficult conditions. And he is actually like the Valspar Championship. A lot of the shots that you had at the Valspar Championship are similar to shots you're going to have here at this course because the Valspar forces you into hitting these long iron shots and forces you into missing greens, right? So, he wasn't exceptional on approach at the Valspar, but he was great around the green. He was great with the putter, which is the same surface he's going to see this week. So I kind of don't mind the idea of going back to Jacob Bridgman. I don't think he's the best play in the world, but I think that, he is a guy that you can go back to with his kind of little recent surge up the board. Now, after that, I'm kind of out on Alex Smalley at $8,200. He's another guy like JJ Spawn. I think you would be like selling high on right now. Taylor Moore at $7,900 on DraftKings has a lot of interest from me. He missed the cut at the Valspar last week. I believe he was in the bad weather wave, and he was T2 here last year. For whatever reason, this is very anecdotal, but it is accurate. Taylor Moore plays his best in the south of the United States. And the last time I checked, Texas is in the south. Taylor Moore, noted very big MAGA guy. So take that for what it will. Anyway, his stat profile has a lot of green in it with the exception of last week. And last week he was in the bad weather wave. I'm willing to forgive that. He was playing great golf before then. I'm willing to go back to Taylor Moore. I think this is a good jump back on spot at $7,900. I also really like Patrick Rodgers at this event. I'm typically not a Patrick Rodgers guy because, it's the same joke I say about Tommy Finau where I prefer to play guys who win golf tournaments, and he has not won in the entire time he's been a professional. But Patrick Rodgers has the skill set that lines up for this course. And, prior to a missed cut at the Players' Championship, he was doing a lot of things right. He had been in the hunt at the Genesis. He'd been in the hunt at the Cognizant Classic, right? And you think about this golf course, it accentuates the 2 things he does well, which is drive and chip. Like that's kind of his jam. And, if you're looking for like crossover success, right? He has played well at Torrey Pines. He played well at Vedanta Vallarta. He was in a playoff with Akshay when Akshay got his victory. And I guess, if you want to say, well, Akshay plays well here, then, everybody who, every other course where Akshay plays well could be a fit. Well, then, yeah, there's another one right there, right? So Patrick Rogers, $7,600. I don't mind. We already mentioned how Kurt Kitayama often breaks my models. He's down here at 7,600 as well. Very successful in my model. I don't mind the idea of going to him. Another guy that I want to talk about is Seamus Power. So he is sneakily positive in all the categories that we're looking for coming in. He was 8th at the Valspar Championship. I don't believe he's played this event at this golf course, but he kind of is coming in with sneakily good form after the Valspar. And I kind of buy it, right? Like, this is a guy who's a really good ball striker, really good driver off the tee, has always had a good short game. So I'm kind of buying it on Seamus Power. I think he's a really solid look at $7,600 on DraftKings. After that, y'all, the board gets really thin quick. Like, once you get below like 7,400, it really starts getting bad. One guy I do like is Lee Hodges. I like Lee Hodges at long golf courses. He has been out for a while due to injury, so I might have a little bit of skepticism there. But Lee Hodges at long golf courses has been something that hasn't really let me down. Same thing with Sam Stevens at long golf courses. Those are two guys that you can roll out with a lot of confidence when they're on long golf courses, and I don't mind the idea of both of them. Ryo Hisatsune is positive in all three of the categories that we were just talking about, and he's coming off of a fourth place finish at the Valspar. Like I said, a lot of those shots at the Valspar that you had on approach and off the tee are going to be similar to what you're going to be faced with here, so I don't mind the idea of that either. Beau Hossler is a guy who generally loses strokes off the tee, but it's not because of lack of distance. It's because of lack of accuracy. He can be a little wild with it, but this is a guy who is a noted great around the green player. This is a guy who is a very up and down approach player, but can get scorching hot with the putter. And so Beau Hossler, Texas guy, played his college golf at Texas. I don't mind the idea of going to him at $7,200, and I don't think anybody's going to be on him this week. Nick Dunlap, we've also mentioned time and time again on this show. Basically, Nick Dunlap is at his best at very straightforward golf courses, and I think this is a very straightforward golf course. He played here last year and finished 11th. I think that's a good sign. Victor Perez is a guy that I generally trust the talent long-term. He's been playing really good golf as of late. Last two starts in the States have been 22nd and 18th. T17th here last year. Fairly positive in all three of the categories that we're looking at. I don't mind him at $7,100. A guy that is in the 6K range that I like, which is, there's not many this week, Stephen Fisk. So he came onto the scene at, I believe it was the Mexico Open. It was one of the tropical tournaments. I'm sorry, the Puerto Rico Open. He was T4. He was T17 in Mexico, so maybe I was right about that. And then T28 at the Valspar last week. So the Valspar, like I said, the approach and around the green play is going to be pretty similar, and he was good in both those categories. He just lost a little bit off the tee, but the Valspar is a course with a serious missed fairway penalty. This is not one. So I think a guy like Stephen Fisk that can really bomb it out there could be pretty good here this week. And other than that, he's positive in all three of the main categories from the start of the calendar year. Another guy that I really like in the 6K range is Ryan Fox at $6,900. Great driver of the golf ball. Was close to the first round lead at the Valspar last week and kind of faded down the stretch. And the only thing that faltered was his off the tee play, which is generally really good because he is a super long driver of the golf ball. You talk about you're asking the guys down here at the bottom of the board to compete with the likes of Rory and Scotty. He's a guy that can do it because of his length and because of his chipping and putting abilities as well. After that, like I said, there's not a whole lot in the 6K range to like. Kevin Roy popped up on a few of the categories in the model, as did Alejandro Tosti. Tosti was also 10th alone. I'm sorry, T2 here last year. So, if you want to go by that, Toasty might be worth a look. Another guy in the 6K range that I am going to mention, Sammy Valimaki. He's at his best at long golf courses. Did he play here last year? No, he did not. He has not played this event, but just another guy who's pretty good at the long golf courses, as is Lanto Griffin at $6,500. The other guy that I will mention, there are some Texas guys down here that are pretty interesting. One of them is John Pak. I believe he is $6,200. He is super talented, just coming up out of the University of Texas. He might be worth a look. And then a guy that popped up for a few of the stats on the rabbit hole, Nate Lashley. I always played Nate Lashley a lot because he's in some of my most successful DraftKings lineups ever when he does play well. So I kind of have a little spot in my heart for him. But he's a guy that popped up for some of the skills that we were looking at. All right, y'all, real quick, let's go ahead and talk about one and done. So for one and done this week, right? I am currently sitting just out of the money in the one and done that I've been picking here on the show, because pretty much I have put together a lot of good finishes without a win. right? And one and done's all about finding the winner. Well, this week, if you want to pick a winner, you might have to pick Scheffler, McIlroy, but I don't think you want to do that this week. I think you very much want to save these guys for an elevated event or a major. The purse is not huge here this week, so I think you very much want to save those too. Looking at the odds, I like pretty much everybody in this next little tier of golfer, right? Thompson, Rye, Spawn, Kim, Day, Finau, Minwoo Lee, like they're all just really solid picks, right? But if you're planning out a one and done, you really want to think of like who you're not going to want later in the season. So my preliminary pick was Tony Finau because my thinking is, hey, I can pick Finau here. The only other places I would want him is the Rocket Mortgage or the 3M. We've kind of passed a lot of the other good Tony Finau golf courses. I really like the logic of going with Aaron Rye here, though, or Davis Thompson, or Minwoo Lee. I think that those are kind of the three most valid picks because, like Aaron Rye, could you want him at the Wyndham defending his championship? Maybe. Could you want him at the Scottish Open? Maybe. But, there's going to be other golfers there by the time you get there. You could get Aaron Rye in really good form at a course that he has a really good history at. So I think that my selection this week for the one I've been picking on the show, I think it's going to end up being Aaron Rye here this week. All right, y'all. That is going to do it for the 2025 Houston Open. Hopefully we gave you guys all the information you need in order to pick some winners, whether you're playing DFS, whether you're betting, or whether you're playing one and done. If this video helps you out in any way, please hit the like button. It helps me out a ton when you guys do that, and I cannot stress enough how much I appreciate it and how much it helps me out. But you always stuck to that 30-minute time limit if you exclude the intro, so I think we did pretty good. But yeah, that's our coverage for the Houston Open. Remember, if you want more from me, follow me on Twitter, join the Fantasy Corner Discord, go get the core plays from the Patreon. That's going to do it for this episode, y'all. We will be back next week to talk about the Valero. And then the next week is a big one, the Masters. My favorite golf tournament of the year. Cannot wait. We're going to have a ton of content for it. So make sure you're subscribed so that we can be with us for all of that. But anyway, thank you guys for watching and listening to this point. Best of luck to you guys at this week's Houston Open. And I will see you guys next time.